Something I wanted to ask you about. So during the North American leg of the Shares of Loft World tour, you were very vocal about giving fans like a really fair deal on tickets and merchandise. I guess that's something that's always been really important to you. That kind of cause.
Yeah, keeping control over prices has always has played a part ever since so we moved away from fiction, which has been our label since the beginning in 2000 with the Bloodflowers album. That was the last album we did with them, and up to then we'd always had like a support structure of a an independent label attached to affiliated with with what's now the Universal Group. And I used to leave a lot of it, I used to delegate and just say, come to me with the headline stuff, and I'm not going to. But after that, I started to get more involved. I also realised that I didn't know as much as I should know about what the industry that I was in and the wider world that it existed in, and so I started to learn about how it all kind of like how it worked, and I was shocked actually at how much profit is made on everything. It's absolutely astonishing. So I thought, well, we don't need to make all this money on everything. Everything doesn't have to make this much money. It's like it was a really simple kind of like, and that still it drove us through with everything. And all my fights with through the ensuing 10 years with the label was always about like how we could price things lower. Because I always thought, well, we have longevity if we're good enough, and if we're good enough, that's up to me. And if we haven't got longevity, why would I? That's the only reason why you'd be charging more, because you're worried that it's the last time you're going to be able to sell a T-shirt. It's like if you have the self-belief that you're still going to be here in a year's time, you want the show to be great because you want those people to come back. You don't want to charge 10 times as much or charge as much as the market will let you, because you can squeeze everyone. It sits really, it doesn't sit well with me at all. And so it reached a point now where I'm pretty much doing everything myself because I know, it's easier for me to say yes or no because I know how it all works. I say like, don't be ridiculous. Like I know how much it costs to do that. We're not charging that. So it was very easy just to set ticket prices. It's still a battle. I mean, you still have to spend an awful lot of time because the other side will try and wear you down. They have teams of people telling you why your idea is a bad idea. So you have to kind of be very, be quite resilient, pig-headed, there are people who would say. And, I also realised that I'm like with the Ticketmaster thing that happened on the American tour, on that leg, it wasn't really about Ticketmaster. I mean, it's the system, you take a step back, you're working in a capitalist system. But it's essentially that. Ticketmaster have shareholders and they're legally obliged to make as much money as they can. If they don't, they'll go there, they won't end up in jail because no one ever does. But that's what they're there for. If it wasn't them, it would be someone else. That's the way the system works. So what pissed me off most was that I had spent an awful lot of time ensuring that we were selling like $25 tickets because I wanted younger people to be able to afford to come and see us. And then they were loading those tickets. They were charging more in fees and more in and all this other stuff. So we didn't allow dynamic pricing because it is a scam, and every artist could just say, I don't want that, and it would disappear. But most artists hide behind management, so we didn't know it was going on. The fees side of things, I was saying I want the fees included in the ticket price. I want a $25 ticket to cost $25, and it's yeah, of course you do, yeah. So then when they started rolling out the tickets, and then suddenly like $25, and by the time someone reaches checkout, it's like $57.50. You're thinking like, where the fuck is all this? Where are these fees going? So then I'm on the phone to the bloke who runs Ticketmaster, and he's like, oh Robert, this is like, someone has to upkeep the building and the car. I said, look, if all this is true, and these fees, why don't you just tell people what the fees are for? Put it on the front of the website. Say, like, you're going to pay $25 for the ticket. That's what the band are charging, and we're going to charge you $27.50 to sweep the car park, and see what happened. So in the end, I managed to wear them down. I managed them, because they really did piss me off because at first they weren't taking me seriously, and it's like, it just drove me crazy. So it takes an awful lot to get me angry, and I did get really, really angry. So then I said, like, you have to start reimbursing people. And they're like, what? And they did, you know, it cost them quite a few $1 million in the end. But I wasn't thinking like, here's me up against Ticketmaster. I was thinking like, I was just pissed off that, actually the thing that came out of it, I was pissed off that no one apart from Neil Young had either the inclination or the courage or whatever to stand up and say, yeah, actually this is a fair point that he's making. No one. Of all the major artists, and they all know what's going on. And anyone that says they don't, they're lying, or they're either fucking stupid or they're lying. It's just driven by greed, but it's the system. You know, it's like you're up against something where everything's monetized. I mean, that's like my lost world. Is like, you know, it's a kind of it's seeing the world historic through rose-coloured spectacles to some degree. But there was a time when not everything, you know. The goal to privatisation stuff, we're moving into very sensitive areas, but it's like it's madness. It really is. I mean, that's the reason why the world is kind of falling apart. Is because is greed, inequality, monetisation. It's insane. So in my own small corner of the world, I was like, this won't happen to us. So it's yeah. But we're selling T-shirts. How can you sell a T-shirt for $20? Like half of that's profit. I mean, we sold 10 times as much stuff. I'm like reducing the prices all the time, $15, and we sell 100 times more T-shirts. And I'm saying to people, look, we reduced everything down so that there was barely any profit on any of the stuff we're selling, and we still made so much money. We sold so much stuff. It's like, we just do the same. Everyone's happy. We're happy. We're selling loads of stuff. Loads of people are wearing T-shirts. We're making money off them. Loads of people are wearing T-shirts because loads of people could afford to buy them. You know, it's people save money on the tickets, so they bought merch or they bought beer. I mean, it doesn't really matter what they spend on. It's like there's goodwill. The shows are fantastic. People, we went and we go back and play the same shows. People are going to come and see us again. It's like, so it's a self-fulfilling good vibe, and I don't understand why more people don't do it. It's either laziness, like I say, or stupidity or greed. It has to be one of those three things. There is no other reason.